But then it also depends on how you model your set. If you keep going, if you move, if you don't stop and pause in between each bit, you can get them going pretty good if they're willing to come along with you.
Greetings, everyone! Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
What's your schedule now? You're doing a fair amount of hosting and comedy.
They had me on Monday. The woman who books the comedy club said, "Hey, can you throw together a show for Thursday night?" And I was like, "I don't know, let me see." And sure enough, I got 8 comics, including myself, to do a show last night. And we had a small crowd, but they were good. But that's what made me want to do this article about doing a small crowd. I had that in my listicles, but I hadn't really worked on it before.
Oh, nice. Okay. Speak to me, like how much are you doing the same material? Are you working on like a new 20 or how are you like when you're doing all
Doing
these
better.
different shows now, what are you doing like to keep your material organized or try new stuff, but also know that you have
I've
good.
got I've got a set list that has all my bits written out on it, including my new stuff. So I've been working on a handful of new things, working on a handful of old things, trying to make them new again, and trying to work that all together.
Like, could you do a half an hour right now and be pretty confident?
Yeah, I could do a half hour. Half hour would be what I'd feel good at. I could probably middle somebody's show and feel good about
Okay.
it. If the crowd was going well, I could do longer, you know, but on a dead night, I would be pressed for material at the end.
So then go back to the small room then. A couple questions about that.
Yeah. Yeah, last night I we did a show in front of a small crowd, probably about 15 people in a room that fits close to 100. So a lot of times a small crowd is relative. If that room fit 30 and you had 15, that would be different. It would feel more packed. But it was small. I went up first. It was the show that I produced, so I felt like I needed to take the bullet.
At least to take the bullet, does that mean just your bits aren't going to land because you need to get the crowd warmed up? Or
Yeah, they're brand new. They're sort of getting used to the show. They know you're first, so they think you suck, and so they don't give you much, and then you have to sort of prove them wrong. But the way I look at it is if the rest of the comics have a good set, I did my job. And they did. They all had a really good set. So I feel like I set them up. The guy right after me just killed. He did really good. So that was a good indicator that I got them ready to hear good comedy, even if my set wasn't bangers. And it wasn't. It was okay. I had to make a lot of jokes about, hey man, when I get done with my joke, feel free to get really quiet right afterwards. It helps me get my thoughts together.
it's a good way of like addressing the elephant in the room, but not like making fun of people for being there. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, you can't really make fun of them for being part of a small crowd because they didn't come out thinking that it was going to be a small crowd. They came out thinking they were going to be part of a big crowd. So they're just as disappointed as I am.
it's like our last episode, we talked about corporate comedy and managing expectations. And even we talked about like the waitress that makes you feel good for ordering the shrimp. Like,
Right.
did you use a line that said, "Hey, you made a good decision to be here tonight," even though the rest
I
of
told
the
them that there's
crowd got drafted?
yeah, I told them that they were lucky to be there because there was 8 killer comics coming up and they're all ready to entertain you. So yeah, I didn't hit it over the head too hard, but I let them know that they had a good evening ahead of them.
They start out cold.
Start out cold. Yeah, it was, I knew it was going to be a slow night when the tech guy goes, "Are you ready to have a good time?" And it was silent. And then he goes, "I know you can do better than that." Because that was nothing. No, he didn't say that, but they definitely could have done better than that. And then they woke up and said something. So I was like, "Whoa, this is going to be a struggle." But I never cursed them out for being small or being too tiny. I think that's
You make
important.
them feel. feel stupid for being there.
Right. And you can't, they don't know what to expect. They think that the show is going to be just as good as any other show, even though there's few people there. They might even think it might be a better show if you let them think that.
In that situation, like, do you like, did you talk to each comic? Like, do you like pep talk and like, are you a coach at that point saying, hey,
No,
the crowd's small, but let's,
these are all pros.
oh, okay. They aren't just
Yeah.
open micers that,
Yeah, these aren't like my students. These are they're not open micers. These are all people who are beginning to make a name for themselves in Dallas. So I just let them all just told them to do 7 minutes and have fun. A couple of them hadn't done comedy in a little while, like in a couple of weeks, so they needed it to get back on track, and they really enjoyed the fact that it was a small crowd and they could just relax, and they knew it didn't matter if it went well or not because very few people would witness it either way.
now were you in the, did you have to give the light to people?
I wasn't me, it's the tech guy that does that.
There was tech guy. Okay. So you weren't
Yeah.
actually, yeah, there was an extra guy there. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, the club hired, that's part of the benefit of having it at the club is they have a tech guy there who runs the show and runs the light and puts up music in between shows, in between comics. We
Mhm.
piggyback,
Okay. Keeps
so
in.
each comic introduced each other.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to keep coming out and then introduce everybody. It just makes the show go so much longer if you keep seeing me up there
'Cause there's eight of you.
because there's eight of us. And so then I got to say something in between each one.
Yeah. If there was three, would you have done that? Would you have come out then, like a
Probably,
host?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So walk me through your advice for a new comic though, when they're hosting a show and they're getting 12 people in a room that seats 100.
Well, for a new comic, I have there's certain things I'd suggested, like acknowledge it and then shut up about it. Like that's one thing. If you're brand new, you don't have enough experience to know what to say about a small crowd. So just be quiet. Just say, I'm glad y'all got here. The rest of whoever's, still showing up, we'll let them phase in as the show goes on. I don't know what you say, but basically just do your show if you're new.
You
Because some of
can't
the
not address it.
Well, I think it's not the elephant in the room, it's the mouse in the room since it's so few people. So I think you got to say something, but you're going to notice it. You're going to notice the fact that there's less laughs in between each joke. There's more quiet, especially in the beginning. But then it also depends on how you model your set. If you keep going, if you move, if you don't stop and pause in between each bit, you can get them going pretty good if they're willing to come along with you. But some of the things you can do that are for newer comics, go local, start talking about some local things that gets people interested in the show, but that's true of any show, even if you're talking to a full crowd. Use current events like small talk. That's another one. Begin to incorporate what you know about what's happening in the world with sort of small talk that brings it up and makes a few quick jokes about it.
What do you mean small talk? Like, would you, if you have a bit
Quick
about,
jokes.
uh, say again,
Quick jokes.
but you wouldn't necessarily do them with a room of 200 that's sold out.
You might want to just kick into your act. You might want to just do what you have planned to do. And then I'm saying if there's a small crowd, you might have to do something first, like small talk, that just gets them used to being a group, in a smaller way than you would for a group of 200. But there's more fancy things you can do. Like you could learn their names and use them like weapons. You can, start chatting and find out what Larry does for work. Discover what why she just got ghosted. Ask why Pete's wearing a scarf indoors, and then tie it all back into your bits. That's a fancier thing to do, though. You have to be a pretty good comic to talk to the crowd. That's like Paula Poundstone stuff. You're talking to the crowd and then incorporating it into your bits. But that works.
And did you do that at the show, this recent one?
Just I took it as if I'm a brand new comic. I didn't have the confidence to sit down and talk to them because it's been, I'm sort of getting back into the comedy world. So I didn't do the fancy stuff like learn their names and incorporate them into my act. I didn't do stuff like that because not number one, I'm back on stage and I'm trying my best not to fumble my own stuff. But also number two, I uh I didn't have enough time. If I was the headliner and I was doing 30 minutes, 40 minutes,
Mm.
then I might spend the first 5 minutes getting to know the small crowd, and then I could talk to them more during the course of my show. But if I only have 5, 7 minutes, I don't want to burn, half of that just getting their names and stuff. So it all depends. One thing you can do is you can appoint a spokesperson. You can just get to know one of them, and you sort of talk to Tim, talk to Mary, and every time you want to talk to the audience, you refer to Mary or refer to Tim, and then you get to know them, and then the audience is represented by them. But that's fancier. That's, when you're newer. One thing I said was to do a suggestion, and I think it was coming from you. Well, I said leave the stage, literally, where you get off the stage and walk through the crowd. You leave the podium and you talk to them up close because you say that's a better way to give a corporate speech. Well, it's the same with a small crowd. Sometimes it's fun to walk amongst them and notice what I say, pet the purse dog, sip from the straw like an unhinged youth pastor. You don't need to stay on the mic stand like it's a lifeboat. Treat it like a living room, just less judgment and more queso.
So you did your bits from like the floor
You can do
or
your bits
from,
from the floor. You can have the microphone with you. You can interview them. You can, you know, get them to turn their whole bodies around just to make it different.
do you ever control where they sit?
Well, that's another one. Move them close. If they're all spread out, have them move. Like get them to move into a close knit group. But typically, a good club does that already. A good club doesn't spread them out. But some clubs let them come in and choose their own seats, and everybody chooses way in the back and away from everybody
Yeah.
else. And if that's the case, you got to get them to move up and around each other.
But that seems like that's something that the venue controls or like you.
Typically, yeah, if they're any good, hopefully.
Hmm.
And then the other thing I said was to trust your material. Don't abandon your material just because it's not getting the same laughs that a room full of 200 will produce. Don't abandon your bits just because they don't seem as effective because there's less people.
To me sounds like a lot of the advice you always give about like managing expectations.
Yeah.
Like you got to recalibrate what's crushing when there's only 12 in a room. In the same way, you recalibrate what's crushing in an open mic when no one's listening.
Well,
You
you've
got
got to recalibrate what it means to be crushing because crushing to seven people is different. Especially who that seven people are. You could crush that seven people and it could be louder than 200 people crushed because that seven people is cool and this 200 are lame. I mean, I'm just exaggerating, but you get the point.
yeah. So how do you face criticism or how do you control your like, hey, I'm disappointed no one showed up for my show. I'm producing this kind of embarrassed, like
Well,
a
for
young
me,
comic wouldn't.
I knew that we had since Monday to produce the show, and we did everything we could, and the club did everything they could. So I didn't have a full amount of embarrassment, like I put my whole full effort into it, but it's hit or miss, man. Like all you can do is tell your social media what's going to happen, give them the address and give them the amount, give them a nice pitch for what the show's about, and that's it. And there's so much to choose from that it's hard to get a big crowd in now anyways. So I would have been shocked if it had been big. I was expecting there to be nobody. I was hoping that there'd even be a show. So that's where my expectations were. Zero.
I guess my question then is what do you give advice for other people that they like don't let their kind of disappointment shape their bit or shape their material or shape their like the way they come out and like even like apologize to the audience for not being big.
What advice do I give?
Yeah, how do you just be confident and just do it? Just don't. A lot of times, like I have a couple of improv shows in Pittsburgh the other day, and they were just so poorly attended. But like every comic just like shit on the show, and then it was kind of like I didn't even feel like being there because like
Well, that's the thing is they're letting their own lack of confidence project into what they think the show is about. And you can't do that. You got to be grateful that there's anybody there at all. and then perform for them like it's a full crowd. And a lot of times when you treat a small crowd like that, they respond accordingly. But it's all relative. They respond accordingly, but for 7 people, 10 people, you know. And I've done shows for 10 people that I felt really good about afterwards. I've done shows for 10 people that I felt really poorly about afterwards.
I'm trying to tally up what you told me here. You said basically you have to address the room, but don't like dwell on it. I think
Right.
that's sort of what you said. So acknowledge it and then be quiet about it. What was number two? Something about oh, you get to know the crowd
Well, you can,
by their
yeah.
names.
You can learn their names and, begin to incorporate those into your act.
And then three was go local. So you're trying to even talk like more like you're not doing a set, you're doing more like a you're talking to someone over a cup of coffee type of.
Right. And that gets them feeling comfortable.
And then you got appoint a spokesperson. So you're talking. Oh, this is the hard one, I think. Love the silence. Your sixth
That's the
piece of
most
advice on
difficult
that.
one. Yeah, to embrace the silence, man, is what takes years of practice. And I think even a lot of experienced comics struggle with this one.
But is it the same as a big crowd? Do you still embrace the silence in a
Yeah,
200 person crowd?
even more so. If as long as it's not the silence of you forgetting your bit or the silence of nobody getting your bit, but the key is to use that quiet time to counterbalance the loud time.
Like, you ever been someone who like just can't stand silence? So like even like in a Zoom meeting, they're like they need to like fill time and space
Right.
and why is that? Why can't you just be
I don't know.
social anxiety? Is it
Yeah, it's anxiety because we're both afraid that the other one doesn't know what to say and I don't know what to say. So now that we're awkwardly struggling to find something to say when really there's nothing to say. So that's why everyone's quiet for a moment. And then something will always occur.
how about this weather?
How about them Browns?
Okay, so love the silence. Number seven, pretend you're at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, you could just
What do you
pretend
mean
like
by
it's a
that?
big room, you can just barrel through your act and let them enjoy it like they would with a full crowd and ignore the silence and just run through your act.
Do you act differently off stage to the comics? Like in the green room where you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I only got 12 people here. Like, is that just bad etiquette too? Because it gets you into the wrong framework? 'Cause should you
Yeah,
still be the same confident?
I don't talk about that. Everybody knows that it's hit or miss whether you can get a crowd. So I'm not at the point now where I just automatically attract a crowd. I don't have that kind of drawing power, and no one expects me to. And no one in my show has that either.
Okay, give me advice on what not to do then. If your listicle did a good job of 10 things not to what to do.
What to not do?
Yeah.
Well, don't give up.
I was asking, I want some clarification because I like how you described it in the article about how when you ask the crowd to move closer together.
Yeah,
I made a note when I was reading your article. You said something like, let's make this feel like a real show. Yeah. I'll do my part, you do yours, which is
right.
such a good way of like, you put each other on the same team. It's like the hostage negotiator does the same thing. You want to figure out how you're negotiating together. I don't know if you ever read
Yeah,
Chris Voss's book on how to negotiate, but there's like a way of like basically framing stuff where you're butting heads and then like it's you versus them, or framing ways of like, hey, we're a team, so I'm gonna try to do my part to make you laugh. Why don't you pitch in and
right. Come
shift
together.
your seats? Yeah.
Yeah, the audience doesn't get a lot of the inside meta info about being so small and being tough to control and being tough to run a normal set against. So if you can treat them as like part of the team where you're working together, I think that's a pretty cool energy to have for your crowd. And I think they appreciate that. There's some crowds, if you're at a rant crowd, the rant crowd might be like, look out, they could get you next. But most comedy clubs are different.
Yeah, I guess yeah, it's stupid to assume that they know what you know about crowds and maintaining energy in the room
No, they
and
know
group
nothing.
laughter and
Yeah, they know
yeah, it's
nothing.
true.
It's their first
I
time.
guess
They're not even thinking about that.
but when someone says change, move seats, move up closer, I'm always like, piss off, man. I just sat down.
Yeah.
But if you frame it in a way that says let's work together to make us a better environment for everybody, that's different than just saying, hey, move up. Can you move up?
Especially if you do it in the beginning of the show before they get all settled in.
Hmm.
It's better to do that. That's why it's better for the club seater to do that. That's what they're trained to do is to seat them close together so that what it comes down to is they've got wait staff that has stations. And so they're trying to give everybody, they're splitting the people amongst the stations that the different wait staff have. So you have to just adjust your stations so that the
Right.
smaller crowd allows for everybody to get somebody. But hopefully you don't have a whole lot of people there. You only have one person there that night because it's a small crowd.
But same with like pro wrestling with like these small shows in Denver. Like they'll if you're there in the crowd, they always make you sit on one side of the ring where the hard camera shoots.
Right. So
So
it
you can
looks like there's a
it's
big
a
crowd.
ring and then yeah, and there's no one like on the three quarters of like the but the guy always says like, hey, this is a YouTube show or whatever. Can you make we want to make feel like the arena is bigger. So let's please can you please sit up against the hard camera? And it's like, yeah, I can do my part. I came to watch the
Yeah.
show. Let's help them out.
And it's more fun to watch a movie or watch wrestling or watch comedy in a group. You laugh more. You
Yeah.
get engaged more.
So I think that's all 10 of your listicle.
But I like the what I end of. A tiny crowd's not a punishment. It's a training montage. It's the dojo where you build presence, patience, and poise. Master the seven top, and the sold out 200 seater will feel like cake. And one guy did a pun on if you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. He said, if you can't do a show for six people, you don't deserve to do a show for 600 people.
Hmm. It's that at your show recently?
This is someone that said it on I posted about this article.
Someone already commented on your listicle. Okay. Article.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says, if you can't play
That's a
to
good.
six, you don't deserve to play for 600. Which I agree with. I think that's a good philosophy. You have to take the good with the bad, and you have to be a pro about whoever you have.
Would you, so this was all kind of like stage presence stuff and would you change your material? Like, is it, if you have a political joke that's going to divide the room, would you, since you only have seven people to divide, would you probably try to not divide the room or would you still try to work on that?
I think I would still try to do it. I would treat them still like, but if I have a joke that divides the room, I have a lot of defense for that anyways, hopefully. Because if you divide a room of 200 people, that's still a big deal. You've lost half the room. So you better
Right.
have a plan for that. So I would just initiate the same plan with the small crowd if I like that joke enough. But I don't alienate the room. I try not to do that. I think that's a mistake, which is goes down to what do I not do? You said I had a whole list of things to do, but what do I not do? Well, don't alienate the room. Don't make it me against them. Make it that you together are working for the show. But that's typically how you would do that anyways. Most comics have a me and you together attitude about the crowd.
Well, I'm trying to figure out like I want contrast to 200 room. Like, is there something that you would do in a 200 room that you wouldn't do and vice versa in a seven-person room? Like, is there,
Pause,
you don't pause in a small crowd
not as much, no.
because you just give them a chance to like lose the crowd again. You just keep momentum faster or what?
Yeah, I would maybe talk to the crowd more if I had a small crowd. I would not talk to them as much if it was a big crowd. If I don't normally talk to people, I would break out of that shell more if I had a small crowd.
You tell more jokes because you're going to be faster with your material
Yeah.
in a small.
That's the thing about small crowds is they eat up your act quickly. So that's
Right.
why we say if you're an opener, have 20 minutes because if you're only doing 10, you might have a set like that where you're doing 20 minutes of material in 10 minutes,
Because nothing's hitting, so you can't wait for last. You just gotta.
right? Sucks.
Um,
But it's the way it goes sometimes. You're thinking fast.
I like that piece of advice of your success as a first comic is whether the second comic's material works.
Yeah, I think that's important. If you've set the crowd up well, then the next comic is going to do well also. If you've trashed the room, then they've got to do your job for you. They've got to get the crowd ready to go. So to me, that's your job as the first comic is to just not take a bunch of bullets to the gut and not say much about it. Don't punish the crowd for being who they are. And then if the next comics do well, you can take credit for that. You can say, I got them in that position to be a good crowd for these other comics.
And then be happy, yeah, be proud of what you did to help out a teammate or type of feeling.
Yeah, and that's where comedy, we were talking about this the other day about comedy versus improv. And improv is such a yes and environment that that's socially, that's how they are as well. Everybody's really, man, you're great. You're great. No, I love how you do your stuff. Oh my God, you're. And then comics are like, you suck, and that means you love each other, because you're ball busters. And it's a different environment when you're socially with comedians than when you are with improvisers. And people that cross the stream and go to both sides know that, and they're shocked at first. They're like, "Man, I don't like hanging out with stand-ups. They're dicks." I'm like, no, you got to get to know them. But yeah, they're dicks. But compared to
It's-
improvisers, the improvisers will stab you in the back without you knowing, whereas a comic will stab you in the front and laugh.
So what do you do? You stab from the side? It's your both.
I'm both, so I tend to be more like they are in improv, and I try to bring that to the stand-up world. But I also know that the love language is ball busting, so I get into that too. But usually just with people I know. But like at Dallas Comedy Club, that the overlay of those two worlds is so tight that you can't really get away with a lot of ball busting there. Their comics are really nice too. All right, brother.
Cool. It's good to catch up, man.
Yeah, you too. Have a good trip. I hope it goes well.
All right, I'll be in touch.
All right. See you.
See ya.